Welcome to the Cloud Talk Live AI ML Summit for 2023. Now, live from Rackspace Technology Global Headquarters, here's Chief Technology Evangelist, Jeff DeVerter.
Well, good morning, everyone. Oh, my fan is here. That's right. Hey, everybody, welcome to the program. We're so excited to have you here today. Now, this view, you've become very familiar with this view. In fact, I stand here at this desk for all of these events we do, and I reel this little fancy desk around Rackspace to get nice little backgrounds. But today, we've done a little bit more. We've got a few more cameras here, and now you can actually see what this desk is. Folks, my name, as was said, is Jeff DeVerter. I am the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace Technology and the host of our weekly Cloud Talk Live program. Now, this program is part of Rackspace's thought leadership. Now, you guys, a lot of you here are part of the whole program. You come to these events every Tuesday morning. And so a lot of this remains the same. Introduce yourselves in the comments below. We'd love to know who you are. We'd love to know where you are. Now, transparency, there's a few more of you here than there are normally, but I'd love for you to introduce yourselves. I may not be able to see you as well on the side of the screen, but let's go ahead and get them in there. And look, there's some comments coming in now. I can even see them, all of the tech that's here. Huge round of thanks to all of the tech folks who've made this happen. Now, this being part of our thought leadership program, one of the things you're aware of, because I talk about it all the time, is that Rackspace, every single quarter for the past several years, goes out and interviews over 1,400 different IT decision makers in 10 different countries around our topic of the quarter. And of course, this topic for this quarter, all around AI and ML. And what I wanted to do is share some of the stats from that program. Oh, look at all these folks introducing yourselves. Dubai is here. Fantastic. Netherlands is here. Jason Rayleigh is here. Rayleigh, JJ. So glad that you're here. But I want to go over some of these stats that we've uncovered. Now, all of this information available for you over at rackspace.com/solve. The beauty of that Solve webpage, and I brought it up before, is the fact that we don't necessarily sell to you there. You're not going to get the pop-up going, what do you want to buy today? It's just free information. And let's take a look at some of that information that we uncovered. I'll push a few buttons here so that I can bring it up on the screen. And here, let's start with the most, kind of killer bit of a stat, and that is when we think about when all of these companies look at their priorities. Number one on the priority list is cybersecurity. Number two, AI and ML. Folks, that's interesting in and of its own. But when we scroll down just a little bit farther in this infographic and we take a look at this, what are some of the problems that companies are trying to solve? Well, they're trying to solve employee efficiency. They're trying to increase innovation and reduce costs. Now, what's fascinating about that is it covers all aspects of the business. It's not like we're trying to solve one specific problem. AI and ML impacts the entire business, front of house to back of house. And if we scroll just a little bit farther down on this list, what you also will see is that 30% of all of these programs were started in the last year. And what that is inferring and showing us is that AI and ML is having a significant impact on organizations, and that impact is happening in near real time because these projects have just begun. Hey, I want to welcome Costa Rica here. I haven't had Costa Rica in the program for a while. India, love it. You guys are among the best. Florida, love having Florida represented as well. And of course, San Antonio, where we're live from here today. All right, so I've talked about AI and ML a lot here already this morning, and in just a second, I'm going to invite a guest up, and we're going to talk about the definition of what that means. But let's talk also, just really quickly, about what you can expect this morning. As in the last summit, it's around conversations, but we've structured these conversations a little bit different today. We're going to start with that definition of AI and ML. We're going to move into a conversation where we talk about the art of the possible today. Now, for that, I've got a guest from Microsoft, and Microsoft is an important part of this play because they've helped sponsor today's activities. Not only are they among the leaders in this technology, but they're also helping to fund events just like this one. So you're going to learn a lot from Microsoft today. And then we're going to move into a demo of what Rackspace has done with the technology. I think you're going to be fascinated with that. And then I've invited the head of the program for data science here at the University of Texas at San Antonio to have a conversation about pursuing a career in AI and ML. And then lastly, the art of the possible. I've got a guest from Microsoft who's going to share about what we can look forward to in the future. All right, with that, we've Uganda's here. I haven't had Uganda here in a while. Thank you. I'm so glad that you are here. Jordan Hernandez, thank you so much for your encouragement about these summits. Keep the comments coming, folks. And if you have questions for the guests, this is the same place where you're going to put those questions in. Megan is back there watching everything that goes by. She's going to be grabbing the questions and putting them somewhere where I'll see them so that I can ask them later. All right, now I want to introduce Tanya. Tanya is a racker. She is in the West Coast today, so it's a little early out there, but she has come to help, not correct me, but help define what does it mean, AI and ML, as we talk about it. Because if we're devoting an entire summit to this, we should probably actually know exactly what these terms mean. So let's set that as a foundation. So Tanya, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for setting the definition of AI and ML up so nicely. However, there's an important distinction to be made that these terms are not indeed the same things, though they are closely related. So AI, artificial intelligence, is the umbrella term for technology that makes discernments and decisions typically done by a human being. So visual perception that we call computer vision, speech recognition, which is popularized by devices at the home, like, hey device, what's the weather? Hey device, play my favorite song. And natural language processing. So any sentiment analysis around reviews for a restaurant or an item that help decision makers better discern how their customers are interacting with their products. So there are a few examples of artificial intelligence. Machine learning does fall under the umbrella of the AI definition. However, artificial intelligence requires specific programming, and machine learning does not. These algorithms and formulas recognize patterns and trends on their own once fed data, using, for example, time series data, so customer purchase history or the weather over time, so we can build predictive models and classify data, such as, making forecasts as described. So we consider machine learning a tool for AI, but they are not the same.
Okay, incredible distinction, and that's going to be obviously important as we have this conversation. Where do you spend most of your time? And is a lot of it just around helping customers understand the differences in those and how they might apply it? Tell me about that.
That's the fun part. But as a data scientist, most of my time is in cleaning the data and making sure that we have the data that we need to achieve the objective. So we are also recognizing patterns as humans to pick the appropriate algorithms and do the appropriate coding to achieve the outcome. These machines are not doing it by themselves. We are using our own discernment to tell the machines what to do. Those movies about, machines accumulating power and wanting to take over the world aren't quite the reality.
Okay, so the lightning storm in the middle of the night, shocking the device and giving it intelligence that it now ingests everything, more data, Stephanie type thing. Anybody get the reference? Put it in the comments. And then becoming conscious. So it really just requires a human to structure and manage the data. And you call out a really important thing, and that is the data has got to be clean because everything is going to stem from the data.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Tanya, thank you so much for being a part of this morning. Now, you're going to be back shortly to take us through the demo as well. You've got some stuff to show us. But for now, thank you so much for that. But for now, what I want to do is transition into our first conversation. And for that, I'm going to move back up onto the stage and engage with the guest that we've got here today. So with that, it's off to the stage. Okay, well, welcome everybody, and now what I want to do is welcome our first live guest to the stage, Jason Himmelstein. He joins us from Microsoft, and Jason is, of course, he's coming from Microsoft, but he's by way of, I'll call it, by Rackspace. So he spent several years with us here, and of course, Jason, you and I have known each other for a few years before that.
Yes, sir. It's been a very long time, but Jeff, before we get started, if it's all right with you, I have to ask a question.
Okay.
These shoes, I'm looking, number one, I see a great SharePoint logo on the inside here, and that speaks to my heart because that's how you and I got started in the first place. But these look like very Racker shoes, man. Tell me about the shoes.
I would love to tell you about the shoes. So this was made for me by my son, Steven. And for Christmas, I gave him a Word doc with like 3 pages of Rackspace lore and images and these shoes. And I said, let's make them rackify them. So we've got the original Rackspace. There's the original Rackspace logo. We've got Fanatici, current logo, some cool stuff on the other side that I can't show you without breaking my leg. And then, of course, initials. And those are the initials of the founders, as well as Graham Weston and Landon Napier, the first CEO. So yes, these are my Racker shoes.
Those are very I thought I was going to have fancier shoes than you, but man, those are much better.
I don't think you succeeded.
No.
I think I won once.
All right.
The one time I've won in fashion was right now. Jason, tell me what you do at Microsoft.
So I am a principal program manager on the Power BI CAT team. So I work on the Power BI product, and I work with our largest customers in the world to try and make our products better based upon their feedback and do all of these really cool things. It's been almost a year now since I joined Microsoft. Before that, I was a Microsoft MVP and regional director. I spent many years here at Rackspace as well, doing all sorts of cool stuff with Office 365, back when it was Office 365, before it was Microsoft 365. But my world today is all about data. And how do you present that data? How do you tell a story with that data? And to your point, the data has to get clean. You have to make it so that it really is something that people can use and do something with.
So when I think CAT teams, I think folks who are trying to get things done and they're getting stuck and they've got to escalate to the ninjas. And the smartest people in the world around that. Of course, that's going to exist inside of the folks who wrote the technology and have a lifetime with that technology. Excuse me. How often is data the problem?
Quite often, actually. It really is about making sure that your data is good. So making sure that your data is clean, making sure that your data model is proper as well is a really important thing. Here, Jeff, I have an unopened bottle of water for you, my friend. So making sure that your data is proper and things can go speedy because we've laid it out in the right way is an important component of that as well.
Got it. All right. So also joining us here, but joining us remotely is what's becoming a great new friend, and that's Tamiz. Tamiz is with a partner in a co-founder in an organization with another amazing Racker, Sarah, who was on the program just a week and a half ago. But Tamiz Ahmed from Populist. Tamiz, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeff.
Hey, unfortunately, the entire world doesn't know Populist yet. Tell us what that is.
Absolutely, yeah. So my name is Tamiz Ahmed. I'm the co-founder and the CTO of Populist. So we're a company that's building tools to sort of reimagine parenting for the modern parent. And we started with the baby registry. So co-founded Populist, like Jeff said, with Sarah Hollingsworth, who's a former Rackspace employee. And we actually met on Product Hunt. So for those that are kind of know the site, we both had a problem. We're both kind of type A parents that had recently gone through a pretty overwhelming preparation for our first babies, and ended up with so much stuff, and we kind of figured there had to be a better way. So I went off looking for someone who was building a better solution to this problem, and I found Sarah was doing something similar. So yeah, we connected online sort of during the pandemic, and the rest is history.
That is fantastic. And of course, data impacts everything, but tell me specifically, how is data impacting what you guys are up to?
Yeah, for sure. So we're using AI and ML in a few different ways in our product. So when we first launched Populist, our real goal was to try and help parents sort of cut through the noise and figure out, well, what are the baby products I need and what do I not? There's so much kind of marketing out there, and it's hard to know what you really need as a new parent. So we built a tool called the Parent Type Quiz and allowed users to kind of answer a few questions, and our algorithm sort of selected recommending products to each user based on kind of their parenting type. And over time, we had so many users go through, so we were able to gather a bunch of data and sort of refine that algorithm based on what previous users were recommending and were liking. And then more recently, we've become kind of fully immersed in the world of AI, or like everyone else in tech, and seeing some of the capabilities of technologies like OpenAI's ChatGPT to solve the needs of our users. And I think that's sort of one of the important things. We're trying to figure out how to use AI to specifically solve problems that our users actually have. So one problem is that our parents are sort of constantly facing is having quick access to reliable information in the moment that they need it.
Right.
You know, Sarah and I talked about many ways we wanted to support parents. We're a small team. You know, we just got a few people on our team. We can't be answering questions from our parents around the clock, and oftentimes they have those questions in the middle of the night. They're doing late night feedings, et cetera. So we're trying to envision a tool that we could build to help parents in those moments. And you know, when I first started playing around with ChatGPT last year, I was kind of blown away by the potential and the possibilities. So we started really putting the screws to the test and figuring out, oh, is this something that our parents could use to answer questions very specific to, you know, pregnancy or, you know, child development, preparing for a baby, et cetera. So what we did is we built a tool called Ask Poppy, and this is basically an AI-powered texting bot. So you know, you sign up for the service, and you get a text from it, and then you can just text on your phone like you would anyone else. And it was kind of important for us to meet parents where they are on their phone. And you can ask a question, anything related to parenting. We do quite a bit now in terms of prompt, you know, so-called prompt engineering. So taking the questions the users give us and massaging the input a little bit before we send it to the AI. And then once the AI returns a response, we do a little bit of massaging as well to make sure the tone is right and provide some additional resources. So it's kind of work in progress. We started with using, you know, OpenAI's got a number of different sort of models that you can use. So we started with their, you know, the previous model GPT-3, and now we're using the ChatGPT API, which they recently launched, and you know, now they just launched GPT-4. So there's so much. The space is moving so quickly, so we're trying to keep up as best we can. But you know, so far users have been kind of blown away. You know, they think it's a real person they're chatting with, so we have to be clear it's not. But they're blown away by the quality and obviously the speed and accuracy of the content we're getting. So that's how we're using it so far, and it's been a really interesting ride.
So to me, there's so much about that I love. I love the fact that you guys saw an opportunity to serve a market that was underserved, to help get the right information at the right time. I love that you saw an opportunity to create an interface where people could ask questions in the moment. And the interface was a common interface that folks are comfortable with, and that's just with text. What could be easier? Now, so Jason, back to you for a second. When I think about Power BI, I have charts of old in my head. And as I think then about how AI/ML fits into that story, tell me how the latest in technology is now starting to impact the charts of old.
Absolutely. So one of the things that has been going on at Microsoft since before I joined was this focus on making data more accessible to everyone, right? Making decisions come to you. That's been sort of the focus of the world.
Right.
And so when you think about it, the most dominant player in the world at this point is Office, right? So people are trying to tell stories. And what do you do with your data? Well, you want to be able to take it to a meeting. And rather than having to create a chart that's static and honestly, oftentimes ugly, not very dynamic, not very user-friendly.
Not looking for, you know, Windows Shift S and copy and put it in
you
a
know, all that
PowerPoint.
fun of just like, let's take a screenshot and stick it in. Instead, now what we can actually do, leveraging PowerPoint, is we are doing something called storytelling with Power BI.
Wow.
So when we're doing that, we actually are able to embed interactive Power BI, which was something that sort of we were able to do about 7 years ago, back in the old SharePoint days with Power Pivot and Power View. Those things are long gone, right? But now what we're able to do is dynamically embed Power BI into PowerPoint, make it something that you can click, you can drill, you actually get to truly interact with your data so that when you get asked by that director of sales or that CEO or that CFO, what's behind that number? How do I know what's really happening there? Well, let me just click into it, drill through, and actually get to an answer for you. And let's double click into that, as they like.
Well, isn't that the blessing and the curse of having a good chart in a slide? And we've all been there. We've all been in that situation where you put the great slide up, and if you've got good data, and you've put it together in a way that folks can relate to, what happens is your answer to the 2 or 3 questions you were asked to show up and present to spawns 10 questions.
Yes,
the best thing is when those 10 questions happen. And what you don't want is to then be in a situation where, well, let me take a note and get back to you.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're able to do with that data inside of Power BI today is actually something that's backed in AI. It's actually called the Smart Narratives Visual.
Okay.
So when we layer a chart on and we've got all this really cool data, what we're able to do with that is actually use the Smart Narratives Visual to tell a story and have the AI look at what's in the chart and be able to describe to you what's there so that you don't have to go off and write all that stuff yourself as well, so that instead of focusing on that, you get to know your data, understand it, so when those 10 questions come, you're ready for them.
And what quarter or what year will that be available?
That actually went GA, I believe, last month. The interactive storytelling with Power BI Smart Narratives has been out for quite a while now.
See, and that's what gets exciting about the Microsoft Day. So, we showed the shoes, and the shoes have a SharePoint logo, and it's an older SharePoint logo, transparency, because that's what I relate to. But that's the, just to brag on you all guys for a second, and that's the Microsoft of old. I've never seen you guys move faster.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. And so, to me, as we bounce back to you for 1 second, what can we look forward to in the future from Populist, as well as where do people go to learn about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll start with the second one. So populist.com is our site. You can kind of see what we're building for parents, as well as, the Ask Poppy tool I mentioned. I think for us, Jeff, excuse me, the future is really determining how to best use this technology. And I kind of mentioned before, in the sort of a natural and organic way. We're thinking about ways to enhance the experience, but not just throwing in AI for the sake of throwing it in. So for example, one area that a lot of busy parents, including myself, sort of struggle with, and it may seem kind of small if you haven't been a parent before, but it's kind of important, which is, you get a gift from all your friends and family, and sending a little thank you card off to them. And when you have a new kid and you're dealing with so many dirty diapers and feedings and lack of sleep, you kind of don't remember that simple acknowledgement, but it's something that's really important to a lot of people. So one area that we're trying to use this AI for is to make that process easy. So obviously there's so much going on in the with chat-based AI innovation. So what can we do to, you're building an interface that allows parents to come in, select, not write an entire thank you card for them, but, select a tone, select the person they're talking to, mention the GIF, and let the AI kind of help them sort of generate some of these thank you notes, so that they are kind of off the hook a little bit, take one less thing, one item off their plate. And then, and that's sort of a new product. And in terms of our existing products, we're looking at ways that we can, when you build a registry, one of the problems and reasons they come to Populist is because in typical registries, you'll have so many products that you don't necessarily need. And, we're trying to help them with the parent type quiz that I mentioned before. But after you've built the registry, there isn't really a good way to analyze everything you have and make sure it's, you don't have any duplicates, or you're really kind of honing on just the items you need. So we're trying to train our own models right now to make sure, every registry has only what you need and none of what you don't. That's kind of one of our biggest mottos. So a little bit more geared towards minimalism. So we're building tools now that'll sort of push parents even more in that direction if they kind of don't have the time to or energy to fine tune their own registry.
Fantastic. When I think about the many problems that AI and ML is solving the thank you note problem, I didn't think was going to be an easy one to do, but you guys are all over it, which is fantastic. Now, when we think about solving problems, a lot of this discussion is around the art of the possible today. We don't have to wait for new technology, although by the time we finish this program, Microsoft's probably got 3 new services out there for us, which is awesome. But what I want to do now is transition just a little, and let's get into an actual demo. Now, before we do that, though, you guys are asking some fantastic questions, and I've got a guest coming up in just a little bit to talk about the things that are happening in the future. And one of the areas where AI ML is making an impact is how we're helping to solve some of the cybersecurity challenges. So I'm seeding that so that my guest actually gives that one a little thought, and how we're going to answer that question a little bit later. But keep your questions coming. We will address a lot of those maybe in line or as we get closer to the end. So keep those questions coming. But with that now, I want to transition into a demo. Now I'm going to bring Tanya back up. She's going to head it off. And we have also got Prashant Mishra, who is going to show what we've created here at Rackspace, so that we can, in a chat-based interface, ultimately be able to answer questions of some of the work that we've done for customers to make the job a little bit easier for our sales folks. So with that, let's go over to Tanya.
Okay, thank you. Before we dive in, I'd like to take a second to define intelligent document processing. So our flavor here at Rackspace enables an organization to intelligently access their data that is stored as documents. Whether your documents are PDFs, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, or even images with data stored, you can upload said files into our workflow and easily classify and make this data searchable. One more second before we get into the demo. Imagine accessing all of the data that has been stored in shared drives, misnamed, lost over the years. Now this information is at your fingertips, and you can pair it with your structured data. let's get into the demo. Okay, so here, when you log into Rackspace's UI, you can see summary statistics of the data that you've uploaded. So here you can see a breakdown of the classification, any successful downloads, performance over time, and this is totally customizable. For example, at your organization, if you track your documents over time, you can see things like the number of healthcare documents that were that contain the date 2010, whatever you need. So here we can upload documents using the user-friendly UI, or we can automate that upload from any shared drive into our blob storage that then kicks off the intelligent document processing workflow. Okay, this is where it gets exciting. So now we're going to actually see the data here in our example. So if you want to see your organization's healthcare documents, and we used a small data sample set here to demonstrate. And you can also, if you know exactly what key term you're looking for, search here. We're going to search for Innovize. And there is the document associated with Innovize. We have one more exciting demonstration of how to access your data stored as documents, and I'm going to hand it over to Prashant to share with you said methodology.
Thanks, Tanya. Yeah, the way I understand IDP is it is a Google for your internal documents, right? With Google, you can search and get relevant document pages, right, back. But we could have been happy with it, right, before ChatGPT. Ever since ChatGPT has shown you that you don't have to Google every question. ChatGPT will go and find those documents for us, read them, understand them, provide a response for your question. We want that, right? I mean, if a document is 14 pages, it doesn't help me to just get that back. Who has time to read that, right? So we want a similar solution for our internal knowledge, because ChatGPT is great if you want to know something based on public information, right? Before September 2021, currently, right? But for internal ChatGPT, we need some extra setup, right? We can't provide our internal documents to OpenAI because of the privacy, etc., right? So there are two ways we can do that. One is fine-tune the model with our knowledge base. Another one is provide just the context to ChatGPT with relevant document, right? And get answer based on those documents. The second technique is called data augmentation, which is what we are going to use in this demo, right? We feed our internal knowledge to ChatGPT and then ask questions related to that knowledge and get similar response as you were getting with the public data with ChatGPT. With the same ease of not going through each Google page, trying to digest that knowledge, but rather get a straightforward answer to your question. For this demo, we are using information about our engagement with companies regarding what was the challenge they were facing, what was the solution which was implemented, and what was the result of our engagement. We have selected about 20 such companies, of which our engagement is public. The information was saved as PPT in our SharePoint, as it does with every other organization, right? As a first step, we used Azure Cognitive Search, the IDP, which Tanya explained, to index these documents so that it is easy to search documents based on keywords. Next, we set up a chatbot, which in the backend has an integration between the IDP and Azure OpenAI, right? In this chatbot, when a user asks a question, it goes to the Azure Cognitive Search first, finds out top relevant documents, which can be used as a data, which can be augmented in OpenAI model, right? So for example, if you're searching for our engagement with a particular company, it will bring forward those slides which have mention of that company. Now, Azure OpenAI takes those documents as a new knowledge and curate a response for your question based on that knowledge. The beauty is now you can ask complex questions which involve multiple companies, multiple languages, accept synonyms, accept spelling errors, has memory. So you can go back and forth as a conversation and extract just the relevant answer that you were looking for. Let's get down to the demo. We are using information about our engagement with companies regarding what was the challenge they were facing, what solution we implemented, and what was the result of that engagement. We have selected about 20 such companies, of which our engagement is public. This information was saved as PPT in our SharePoint, as it does in every other corporation, right? As a first step, we used Azure Cognitive Search Service to index these documents, the IDP, which Tanya explained, so that it is easy to search those documents based on keywords, right? Next, we set up a chatbot, which in the backend has integration between Azure Cognitive Search and Azure OpenAI. In this chatbot, when a user asks a question, it goes to the Azure Cognitive Search first, which returns top relevant document, as does the Google, right? Which can be used as a data, which can be augmented to the OpenAI model. So for example, if you search for our engagement with a particular company, then it will bring forward those slides, which could have that mention of that company, right? Now the Azure OpenAI takes those documents as a new knowledge, right? And curate a response for your question based on that knowledge. The beauty is now you can ask questions which are more complex, right? Which involve multiple companies, involve different languages, accept synonyms, accept spelling errors, right? Also has memory, so you can go back and forth as a conversation and extract relevant answer you were looking for. Let's see it in a demo. So the first question which we'll be asking is, what was the result of our engagement with Innovize, right? It goes through the cognitive search, gets those documents, and eventually provide you a response which is about our engagement with Innovize. The first question always takes more time because it has to load everything, but there you go, right? Next, let's ask a bit complex questions. So can you compare, for example, our engagement with Penske and Aeromexico, for example, right? And I have a bit of a spelling mistake there, just there to, I mean, it shouldn't matter to the chatbot, right? So here you see, for example, our engagement with Penske and Aeromexico both focused on transforming their IT system, right, in order to improve customer experience. So very concise answer, right? Very nice. Next, let's also play with these spelling mistakes again, but in terms of name of the company, right? For example, if I ask, how long did we take to deliver the project with Metrobank? And with a spelling mistake, right? It will rightly find out that information for you and give you a very concise response, which you wanted, right? Not to look at the whole slide and find out, okay, what was the timeline that we agreed on, right? Similarly, you don't have to just ask question, but also you can provide command just like you do in the ChatGPT, right? For example, summarize our engagement with McKinsey, right? And it will summarize that engagement in just a couple of sentences, which is really nice. Next, let's look at the memory. So we'll start with one question, which is about what was the impact on Vintham's engagement with us, right? Next, we are not going to mention Vintham, right? We are just going to say, okay, how did we reduce costs? In the impact it mentions it included drastically lower costs, etc. Right? But how did we do that? Right? We don't have to mention Vintham. We'll just say, how did we reduce costs? And it will provide you the answer for that, right? So for example, here it says, we reduced it to 40 to 45% range from their traditional run cost. That's really nice. We can go further. We can say, oh, was that an impact on performance as well? So we can adjust that. We haven't mentioned Vintham anywhere over here either, but it will understand we are still talking about Vintham, and we'll see, okay, we saw about 30 to 40% performance improvement with Vintham, right? Really nice. Next is for colleagues basically who are not that comfortable with English, or they want to basically talk to the ChatGPT or chatbot in their own language. So for example, here I have a question which in Spanish says, summarize our engagement with Teva, right? Now I should expect a response in Spanish then, right? Because I'm talking to this chatbot in Spanish, and that we do, right? Although the slides are in English, the indexing part was in English, but our conversation is in Spanish. This is RACbot for you. Thank you very much.
That is incredible. You know, all the source data, English, conversation happening in Spanish. You know, Ben Blanqueri, you may have seen the post pop up. He's a Racker, and he makes a comment. He says this is going to be a game changer for unlocking institutional knowledge. You know, we think a lot about how to apply some of this latest technology and these latest you know, even just features and capabilities. And we play around with ChatGPT. And what I love about this demo is the fact that, you know, it takes search to a whole new level. When we think about going to find some information, we're then presented with, in a traditional search, you know, experience, I might get PowerPoint documents, I might get PDFs, I might get Word documents, and it's up to us to go mine that stuff and figure it out. How much of your time is either trying to figure out where the right document is or where the right person is who can decode the document? A tool like this unlocks that information for you in a very smart way. Now, of course, it requires data. That data has to be curated. That data has to be the right data. We don't want ChatGPT or whatever cognitive search we're using to be making recommendations or summarizations based on bad data. And that's where we get to my next guest. Now, I'm just excited to get to introduce you to David Mangiao, who is the head of the data science program over at the University of Texas here in San Antonio. David, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jeff.
So glad that you're here. So, so you've been at the school for just over a year now, about a year?
About a year and a half.
A year and a half. Boy,
Yes.
has it been that long already? Oh yeah, it is the middle of the winter. Yeah, that's right, it would be. So, so tell us about the school.
The School of Data Science at UTSA is one of 5 schools of data science in the US, which says something in higher ed, because to stand up an entire school, like a school of law or a school of business, is a statement that data science is something that's here to stay. It is a field of study that deserves its own place. Now, there are many universities in the country that offer data science degrees, that have data science research centers. But as I say, 5 have taken the step of standing up an entire school.
And UTSA has taken that to, not just you've stood up a school, you've got a pretty fancy building, you've got,
We do.
you guys have a serious rallying cry.
And there's something that's also unique about that. The School for Data Science in San Antonio was also a statement by the university to the city and to students who maybe didn't have as great of access to the data science field and the opportunities that AI and ML technologies present to them. So yes, the school was built in the center of our redeveloping downtown.
Right downtown.
And creating greater access to actually more proximity to 2 of the more poor sections of town to create pathways for students. And part of that was made possible, you mentioned Graham Weston earlier. Part of the school was made possible by a large investment from Graham Weston, as well as the state.
He does love the city, and he has a passion for, of course, technology as one of our founders and original investors and chairman of the board and good friend, but a passion not only for technology education, but making sure that as accessible as possible to as many people as possible.
And within the school, part of that access is we're currently focused on graduate degree programs. We have 5 graduate programs in data science. Now, someone might say, why do you need 5? Their recognition of the different career paths and opportunities. So the data science program within the School of Business often leads people to companies like Rackspace or to Microsoft. Perhaps in our computer science program that has a heavy data emphasis, those folks may also go to Microsoft's research arm or to stay in academia. But so we have this mix of programs, which is, again, fairly common in the US.
Now, in your career, you weren't always in higher ed.
I was not.
How did you find your way here?
So I worked for most of my career in the private sector. I was hired into Bell Labs when I got my bachelor's degree, and I stayed at Bell Laboratories from its AT&T days through its Lucent days, through its Alcatel days, before it had its Nokia days. And I think what led me there and why I find a school like UTSA so important is I don't think I would have known about the opportunity that data brings to what I was in school, was an English major. But at Carnegie Mellon, no matter what you did, you had to study statistics and you had to study coding and computing.
Yeah.
And as an English major, I think I got introduced to the power of statistical analysis and computational thinking. And that is what data science can bring to a student in any field. And that's what I think is important. While we can prepare students for careers as data scientists, as AI experts, we also need to create the access and understanding that the folks like Tanya have brought here about what AI and data, machine learning is, to demystify it and say, you can put this to use as a doctor, you can put this to use as a botanist, you can put this to use as a chemist.
It really is everywhere. You know, I've been, you know, if you watch the show, you know that I talk about the fact that we live in this time now that technology is a part of every challenge or opportunity that exists. There really aren't any scenarios where a business or an individual or an organization is trying to solve a problem, is trying to overcome a challenge, is trying to seek an opportunity where technology isn't a key enabler of that. And part and parcel, joined at the hip, is data as part of that. In fact, maybe even leading the charge in some cases.
I would agree. And you know, you're making me think back to something that we've heard from Jason and Tanya as well. You said it's the data, that's where you start. And while we're hearing the amazing things that ChatGPT can do and that AI can accomplish, we also heard from Tanya, what takes the most time? The data engineering, the data cleansing, the data curation and preparation. And that's something we're really trying to emphasize with the school. We hear this from companies all the time. You're producing very smart students, but sometimes you've given them the canned data sets. Let's teach them data engineering too. So we'll be releasing a new data engineering certificate because that front end is so important to what you eventually achieve.
You know, in computing, and especially with your history, even as an English major, but with an understanding in and around computing, garbage in, garbage out. And
Garbage
so,
in, garbage
you know,
out.
ChatGPT will only ever be as smart as the data that goes into it or whatever generative text technology you're using.
Right.
So it all comes down to that.
And you're making me laugh, you say even as an English major, because when I, and this is why I want to, you know, encourage students no matter what their interest in is, because of the thinking, the training I got in statistics and data analysis, my minor was actually data analysis, an English major was able to work on the first C++ compiler that was ever released, because I understood enough, which is important.
Yeah. So over at the school, when you think about helping people understand the importance of a certificate, of why they would want to pursue data engineering, you know, where are these folks coming from? Are they hardcore, you know, data science or computer science type folks, or are you seeing people from the larger UTSA with an interest?
Oh, from the larger UTSA, because every discipline, public policy, public health, anthropology, we have a digital humanities lab in the school. So I mentioned right now we have 5 graduate programs, but we also support students from the undergraduate programs. There are 10 total data science programs. We have 16 research labs, and they are in the areas like anthropology, next generation census, demography, and I mentioned anthropology. So you're seeing people from all areas, and part of what the school wants to achieve, and some other universities in the US are doing this well too, is no matter what, in addition to the majors, any student needs a core baseline in understanding the data life cycle and how to use data to advance their discovery and their work. So we're working on a core curriculum that every student will get to partake in.
You know, David, I have in my head, you know, and this speaks a bit to my age, but you know, you especially go to elementary school, and it's reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now, how far are we from, you know, a 3rd grade class when we think about reading, writing, arithmetic, and data science and engineering?
I don't think far, because the independent, like within San Antonio, many of the independent school districts are already engaging with us.
Right.
And part of that engagement is how do you introduce to a 3rd grader data science in a context they care about? So they might want to make a more interesting cartoon character. So how can data science help them do that? or how can it help them make a better layout of a map that they're building.
Right, something in, that's just amazing ways to think about it. And even just as a human, I mean, you've already mentioned that all the areas of research are utilize data science, data engineering, all of that ad nauseum to be able to create the pretty charts and graphs of the things, of the results of their research. Well, as an individual who's gonna consume that research, shouldn't I be literate in understanding maybe even having access to the data set when papers get released so that I can go back and as an individual go, it looks about right.
Absolutely, and I think in an age where every day we see a new posting of the 10 top this, the 10 best that,
yes.
We as consumers need to say, who generated this data?
Yeah.
What was the source of that data? Because what we don't, in general, the press doesn't do that. They promote that headline.
Yeah.
And what we as a consumer need to do is say, where did that information
yeah.
come from? One other thing I wanted to note that I think is really important that any student pursuing data science understands is data's multiple forms. So something we're doing at the school is we have image data, you have text data, you have video data, and you have audio data. Audio data is probably one of the richest areas that is not as well researched, and there's a lot of excitement in that space too.
And I know where you could go to learn more and become a data scientist to be able to research more inside of that. That, of course, is UTSA. And I think we can just send people over to utsa.edu and learn all you want. Click on the data button. I'm sure there's a data button there somewhere. David, thank you so much for being a part of this. Don't go too far because we've got Q&A coming up here shortly. And I'm sure there'll be some questions for you to answer. And I do want to call out before we move to our next section, he of course has a pin on for UTSA and the slogan apparently, be bold.
Be bold.
Be bold with your data. And we all know the old phrase that data doesn't lie, but data scientists do. So go learn your data so that you can know the truth yourself. Well, folks, as I mentioned earlier, this program is co-sponsored by our good friends over at Microsoft. And what I want to do now is just show a quick video on some of the amazing things that they're doing. So take a look at this.
Every day, artificial intelligence helps us navigate our work and personal lives in so many ways. From recognizing your face when you sign in the morning, to making your meetings more inclusive and efficient, to helping you with daily tasks, to finding new adventures. All of this powered by Azure AI and Microsoft's decades of research and innovation. Microsoft's AI is available through our Azure AI portfolio, which means you can easily bring these same capabilities into the technology you are building as well. Azure AI brings AI within reach of every developer and data scientist, with leading models to see, hear, speak, search, and understand. And our end-to-end platform supports mission-critical AI scenarios, from how you operate your business to how to serve your customers. Microsoft is invested in the responsible development and deployment of AI systems. Ultimately, our goal is to empower you to achieve more, whether it's at work or at play, every day.
All right, well, again, thank you to Microsoft, and you guys are up to some great work. And with that, I want to introduce Ravi from Microsoft. He's come to be a part of our last interview segment, and in that, of course, first of all, welcome, Ravi, to the program.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Jeff.
Hey, so glad that you are. Now, you are the global director of, I always colloquialize things, all things data and strategy, or strategy for data and AI, but maybe you could tell us your official title.
Oh, yeah, sure. I work as a director of AI and machine learning business strategy. What it means is that I get to work with some amazing marketeers, great engineers, best of architects, super planners, and partners and intelligent pricing teams to just get a winning proposition so that we can land it to our customers and partners so that they can build something out of it.
Amazing.
We actually call ourselves as business architects internally.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. Looks like you're coming to us from the office. How many people are going into the Microsoft office these days?
Quite a few. In fact, I'm meeting more and more new people in the office because I think there was a lethargy of a lot of people not showing up in office for at least 2 years. Now they're all coming up. I'm having a lot of new people having lunches with.
Fantastic. Well, as I seeded earlier, this segment is really, we've talked a lot about the art of the possible. One, how, what can be done with data, AI, and ML today, what's being done actively. You've seen the demo. We'll talk about that in Q&A just a little bit. And we talked about how to pursue a career in this field as well, and the importance of really understanding the nuts and bolts of data engineering and such. But now I want to talk about the future. What gets you, first of all, excited about the future of these tools and technologies?
By the way, today I saw some amazing demonstrations. I saw amazing content being discussed. People were talking about what they were really passionate about, stuff which is being built in Populist, stuff about data and engineering and so on and so forth. This was really, really nice to have it. Your question, Jeff, is quite broad. I mean, to be very frank, I want to acknowledge one thing. I'm learning this space as much as you are. I mean, the one thing is for sure, but my rate of learning has become better and faster. And I attribute entirely to the advancement of AI and technology for all of this, because I'm able to read faster, I'm able to learn faster, I'm able to watch videos faster, and so on and so forth. And I see businesses are doing exactly the same thing. They're learning, they're changing in a similar fashion. Almost every now and then, I hear amazing solutions being developed to solve something very unique, something which makes applications intelligent. Or sometimes it's just to make a person more productive and make their applications better. A few areas which I think, and this is not a crystal ball, this is something which I'm seeing right now, and I'm sure this is going to continue to happen over the course of time. First one is pretty straightforward. It helps you make good decisions. It makes you make informed decisions, and it makes you do this fast. Uh, we have the data, we have the analytics. We want to make sure that it's available to everybody easily. I'm a fan of solution which Prashant demonstrated a few minutes earlier. And I used to loosely call it as I have done that before analytics. What it really means, let me explain that a little bit more. If somebody is trying to write a new project plan, and suddenly your friend comes by and says, "Hey Ravi, you know what? This project, what you're trying to create, Jeff had done that uh, 10 years ago, and it's located in this repository. And here is how it was done." This is just mind blowing for me. And Microsoft has a much cooler name for that. It's called Copilot. You must have seen that announcement a week and a half ago. It's one of the most coolest names which I've heard for a product. The second thing which I think Azure and machine learning will shape are the use cases about automation. And this is happening almost everywhere. This is uh, it is to find out the dangerous things. For example, you identify cracked pipes, or checking if people are wearing helmets or not. Finding out whether there is dangerous hardware kept openly, and so on and so forth. So that's something which I'm seeing. And I remember Tanya was mentioning something about vision scenarios, and that's where this sits in appropriately. The third example which comes to my mind are these great examples of personalization and customer service business. Uh, what if you had a friend who will come and sit next to you and giving you ideas as you're talking to the customer? It scans up the data, identifies what's the best offer to give out, suggests you an ongoing offer, suggests you something which will make an angry customer more happy on your platform. Those are the examples of personalization and customization which you can always bring in. And the fourth one is this entire stream of activities where you could do forecasting, you could do estimation, you could do modeling, you could do simulations, and you can focus all of these energies towards sales. You can focus this towards inventory. Some of them will focus this towards life sciences. Some will focus on manufacturing and all of that stuff. There are many, many examples, and I can just keep going on. But I'm more convinced that organizations will continue to leverage all of this AI and machine learning technologies to find some edge in the market so that they're better than somebody else. But this is not a crystal ball. But I also want to acknowledge one aspect. I can keep speaking about this for long. Everybody who does this has to do it responsibly. And you saw it in the video as well. We want to make sure that whatever we create using these technologies, we have APIs, we have the platform, we have the models available. They have to do it responsibly. They have to think about the right intent and what's the positive outcome you want to achieve out of all of this scenario. I'll take a pause there because otherwise I'll keep speaking about as many scenarios which I've seen in the past.
Yeah, there's obviously a ton that gets exciting about the future of it. And one of the things that and you guys call it out, and that's how responsible we have to be with the technology. But if we take, I'll call it a sister to that, and that might be how AI and ML, and you actually even called this out in one of your first things, and that is how it is making life more accessible. You know, we could talk about accessibility to technology or information, but it's ultimately making life more accessible for those who have been challenged by that in the past, be it in the way that they are interacting with individuals, interacting with entertainment, interacting with just the physical things in their life, and being able to, you mentioned summarization, you mentioned so many things there, but it's first of all that the way that we're making life more accessible through AI and ML for individuals who've been challenged by that. But I think also, we go back to what David mentioned. We've got a school of data science now that has been placed right down in one of the lowest economic sections of San Antonio. I had a conversation last week with an individual in Africa who is making cybersecurity more accessible to women all throughout Africa. Who would have thought about that? But I think that ultimately AI and ML, data at its core, is helping to make and expose the fact that, one, there's folks who are willing and able, and two, we can bring that to them and they will rise to the challenge.
Absolutely. And I won't disagree about this at all, because this is exactly what I believe myself. The data, the compute, the infrastructure which is required to be able to do all of that is really, really the most important and core of all of this. And I think you brought it up a few minutes earlier as well. The better the data we have, the quality of the data we have, the better the solution is going to come out. The better the estimations are going to be, the better the forecasting is going to be, the better life will be for people who are going to use those technologies. And I agree with that.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, what we're going to do right now, Ravi, is transition into some Q&A. We've had some questions pooling up, and I actually seated you a little bit earlier with how AI and ML is helping with cybersecurity. I know you guys have some specific tooling in and around that, because finding those needles in the needles and the haystacks of the haystacks of the bad guys is getting harder and harder. So how is AI and ML helping cybersecurity? I'll let you answer that one, Ravi.
Yeah, so there are plenty of things right now. I mean, there are plenty of things which are happening on AI and machine learning perspective. First of all, we want to make sure that we have the data which is available in the most cleanest and the right format to be able to identify who are the bad actors, who are the good actors, and what is the kind of tactics and modus operandi they use in order to find this out. I'm not a cybersecurity expert per se, but there is a lot of machine learning which goes behind in order to identify who those actors are and how those are using these technologies to be able to access this. We have in Microsoft, for example, our Defender, our services on Office 365 use most of these technologies to identify who's the right person, who's the wrong person, and identify those areas as well.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Hey, let's go to the stage for a second. And David, I'm going to shoot this one over to you. It should be one of the easiest ones you get all day, and that is, we've got somebody asking how to enroll in a master's program over in and around data science. Somebody who's interested in demography and has a background in that. So, David, how does somebody enroll?
If you visit the website of sds@utsa.edu, there are connections there to all of our master's programs, and then you're able to click in and learn the requirements for each of the master's programs. I think something, given this question about demography, is just to know, in addition to those programs, if you do decide to come to UTSA, make sure you check out the Next Generation Census Lab at the school. We are the only school in the nation that the U.S. Census Bureau is working with to modernize the approaches to demography.
Incredible. I actually didn't know that. That's pretty fascinating. Also, so next question. Prashant, I know you're hiding in here somewhere. There you are. Let's talk about the different languages supported by RackBot. And so actually, it's a really good point to call out the delineation. Did you have to code for that, or was that handled some other way?
No, Jeff. This is automatically handled by OpenAI, and I didn't have to code anything at all. I think there are many languages supported by OpenAI in the chat within the large language model regime. I think there are about 100 languages that you can talk to and get responses in the OpenAI basically.
Very good. Okay, the power of relying on the tool to do the work. You provide the data, curate the data, and write your interface. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Hey, Tanya, really quickly, you mentioned that when we talked about the differences between AI and ML, and AI required programming, ML didn't necessarily require lots of programming. Well, somebody asked the question, what programming is required for ML?
The intention behind that statement was that these are mathematical formulas. It's not the applied math and principles are already existing. You're not building anything from scratch. But there is, of course, utilizing Python or R to execute these formulas.
Okay, fantastic. Hey, Jason, I want to shoot a question over to you. And really what I'm asking is, let's look in your crystal ball just a little bit. As we think about the changing role of BI, as Storyteller works into this, what does this look like in a year or two's time as we think about how we interact and analyze and make decisions based on our data?
Absolutely. So as just prognosticating for just a moment, without giving anything insider information away, because I could get in trouble for that.
Yeah, let's not get you in trouble. We'd love
but just taking a look at the storytelling side of the world, when you start to think about all the different areas of data, all the different spaces that you can get data from, and being able to pull things together in a more ubiquitous way, and not only making it more accessible to the data scientists, but instead making it more accessible to the end user, somebody who will be able to take this data and do something with it in a faster way, in a more rich way because of AI, and because the ML model's been taught on the backside by a data scientist, because they take a look at those models and do a lot of machine teaching, is what oftentimes it gets referred to, right? Is going through and helping to make sure that those models get trained the right way, so that when the end user gets that data, it actually is giving them quality information and things that they can trust and do something with.
All right, well, thank you so much for that. There are lots more questions. We just don't have time to answer them all. But a lot of these questions, like you're asking some very interesting questions for David. Everybody in this event has been tagged in the event. They're on LinkedIn, so you can reach out to any individual and have follow up. We will try to follow up with you as best we can and get you some other answers. But we are at the top of the hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. I am so grateful that you've chosen to spend this past hour with us, and so grateful to all of the guests that have been a part of the program and this amazing tech crew who have helped to pull this off, as well as the every single week Solve production crew who are here solving things every single day. So everyone, thank you so much for that. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is part of our Solve program. This is the Cloud Talk Live Solve Summit, which happens every quarter. That means we're coming back in, I believe it's June, with our next event, and that event will be all about cloud transformation and everything involved in that. Now, we don't have a date yet, so just go ahead and mark your calendar from the 1st to the 30th for Solve Live. That way, we'll be sure to have time to participate. Everyone, for the whole production team here for the Solve program at Rackspace, my name is Jeff DeVerter. I am the Chief Technology Evangelist for us here at Rackspace. I hope you've enjoyed this program. We've had an amazing time putting it on for you, and we'll see you, of course, next week with another 30-minute Cloud Talk Live and back for another Solve Summit in June. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you for joining the Cloud Talk Live AI ML Summit 2023. For more information, go to rackspace.com/solve.